and make sure we're up and running there. It is fantastic to have everybody here. We are going to have an amazing show today. Is there ever any other show? Sometimes it's not so amazing. Carol, can you find it? I'm going to pull it up on your phone. Or I'm going to pull it up on everybody's phone. There we are. Alrighty, let's see. I'm going to jump on over. Oh, yep, I just got a
notification.
A notification. I think my notification. We've got to get all of our devices in line, right? You guys, you're up, Brandon?
Yep.
And am I seeing people chat? I like having the phone.
There's Kathy, there's Lynn.
Perfect. There we go.
Hi, Danielle. I like your...
And then let's see if we're on. Yep, we're on there. And let's see, I'm going to redo it here. Live stream. I know we're here somewhere. It'll come up. All right. Oh, and okay, we've got Gita. Gita is up.
Apparently Denmark and Iowa are sunny.
Yay. Love that story. Well, it is great to have everybody here and up and running. Let's see. When you guys are watching this on your phone, this is a great experiment for me to see if this is going to come up. Oh, there we are. Look, done and done. I love that story. There we are. I think that's it. There we go. We're up. I'm up there. I'm up there. All right. It's great to have everybody here. So awesome. So while people are jumping on, it looks like everybody's jumping on over on YouTube as well. It's great to have you guys. We have such a great show planned for you guys today. I have some amazing samples that Janice has created, and you can see our view is a little bit different. I'm out in the classroom space here at beadshop.com. I have a couple of guests who are here watching on the sidelines. My wonderful father-in-law and our family friend Carol, Fred and Carol are both here. So they're just right over there to my left, hanging out. So Chris's pop is here. It's great. It's great to have them here with a visit. So, and I know my mom's going to be jumping on. So and Janice is here. So it's like the whole family's together. We're here. You're here. We're all here together to create, which is going to be awesome. Janice, I see you over on Facebook, which is awesome. And I'm seeing everybody jump on. It's great to have everybody here. As you guys know, Gita is over on the Facebook feed, moderating all the way over from Denmark. So Gita, we always appreciate you guys doing that. And Melanie from Louisiana. Hi, honey. It's great to have you guys here. Great. And our dear Linda Longacre. Linda, it's great to see you from up in Montana. It's great to have all of you guys. Great. And Fred and Carol, you got a big welcome over on beadshop.com. Everyone's saying hello over there on the Facebook feed. So it's great to have you guys here. So it's fun with a live studio audience. I'm getting a little fancy, right? And of course, we've got Brandon behind the camera doing her thing. So it's great to have you guys here. So, so we've got these new vintage finds in, and you guys, if you were watching your newsletters and you saw things yesterday on Tuesday, you saw that there are some new pieces that we got into the shop. And vintage finds, I have a strong and unabiding passion for these beads because back when we had the brick and mortar in the bead shop, the brick and mortar shop, these were pieces that I made some of my first jewelry with. And Janice and I have always loved working with these. And so the vintage finds that we have now are still a lot of the same products that we had back then. There's a finite, as you guys are labradorite pie, I'm looking at you, there's a finite supply of these guys. So they're not going out anytime soon, I hope. I don't know, it's hard to tell, but these are all really kind of hand-picked pieces that I go back in this dusty warehouse and wear like not fancy clothes to go find. Janice and I always get our hands dirty when we go to pull our vintage finds, which is really fun. So we have some new ones that we added to the mix. So I'm going to talk about those. And Janice, you know, this was just going to be kind of an overview, you know, hey, let's chat about vintage finds. But Janice, true to form, created two amazing pieces that are up. We put them in our leather, and it used to be called leather and pearls, but now it's called leather and beads category. And so Janice has made two really cool things, and we're going to talk about these as well. This one here is called Terracotta Wash, and this one over here is called Third Season, and we're going to look at them in a little more detail as well. But these samples, I guess, really illustrate how easy it is to work with these guys. I have some other necklaces that I'm going to share with you that are a little more, I don't know, involved, I guess, as well. So vintage finds are an amazing starting point where you can go kind of simple, fast and simple. These are easy, quick pieces you can make, or it could be a weekend project. Okay, so let's turn this camera around, Brandwin.
Right.
Let's get this show on the road. And I'm going to start by looking at Janice's projects is what we're going to look at to begin with. And then we're going to slide around and look at, thank y'all, and look at some, here we go. There it is. There we go. We'll get you guys right in the, whoop, right in view here. You get a good view of all my screens. I've got you on all my screens here.
A little bit more.
There we go.
Sorry, Kate, it's
Nope,
going
it's
to be right
okay.
in your face.
That's
but,
all right.
we'll have a
I
good
did.
working. I think we got a pretty good working area there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we see me? I'll move things over so you guys can see what's going
So
on.
we got this, yeah.
Yeah, let me get
Beautiful.
that out of the way. Let me get this out of the way.
I think that looks pretty good, right?
All right, kids, there we are. That looks all right. Whoops, where did my stream go? Here we go. There we are. All right, so let me get those samples out, and so you can see this. So Janice, when she sent these over, I was like, holy cow, JP, these are awesome, and I was really excited to share these with you guys. So this one is the Terracotta Wash, and this one's called Third Season. And what they have in common, what Janice used, is the awl in there, Baran? Or something, or a pencil, or I'll take that pencil. I'll point with the pencil. That's perfect. I probably stole the awl when I was doing something else. So the Terracotta Wash, this project is all about these carnelian nuggets. Now these carnelian nuggets are super old school, and I have a sample of these guys over here that I want to show you. And so these guys are kind of chunky right here, you can see. Chris just passed behind me and is heading off the mailman at the pass, I think. So that's so funny. But you can see over here to my left, you can see the carnelian nuggets. And see how the carnelian nuggets are kind of all mixed up in the different colors here. What Janice did in her piece, can you see how she did an ombre effect with these, which is great. And this is almost a no-brainer to use these guys. She just mixed them up and put them all in kind of a color order. So up in there, Chris cut, he headed the mailman off at the pass. Nice one, Chris. So this is really great. And so and I'll show you, we're going to examine how this is put together a little bit more. But this piece over here, this one is also done with some of our new ones. And the new ones are, can you hand me some, it's this table over here. So I do.
All right.
So Janice used some of our new ones. Our Serpentine Daisy, our Serpentine Donut, our brown, I don't know if the bigger ones are in here, but the brown Serpentine and the large rounds and the medium rounds. And then we've got this Serpentine Rectangle and this Serpentine Elongated Bicone. The easy way to find all of these, you guys, is to just go into our Just In section, okay, and you'll find them all there. And so you can see how these guys are just kind of laid out here and just kind of quickly strung, which is kind of cool. So I want to show you guys before we get any further into these, and of course you can go right over to the website, beadshop.com. If you click on projects, if you click on leather and beads, you'll see these two projects, terracotta wash and third season. And I'm going to go over the specifics of what are in there as well in a little more depth in a second. But I wanted to show you guys kind of a few other things that we can do with the vintage finds. Now Janice is going to laugh. I think she's going to remember some of these pieces here. This is a piece that I am guessing this piece, there we go, that's how it goes. I don't know, you can see how small it is. My neck was a lot smaller than, I don't know, this piece is probably at least 20 years old. It has a lot of vintage finds in it, or vintage finds like pieces. And so I just wanted to show you some of the things that I have from my archive as well, and how you can kind of recreate and go from simple, like JP had over here, to kind of crazier here. These old these pagodas, Janice will recognize these. These aren't really able to be found anymore. And these really super carved wood pieces, I don't know. Well, we're always on the hunt, but I don't know if we can find these guys here either. We'll see. And I brought also these, the pie. Brandwin is adjusting the brightness here, so we'll get it all done. Okay, great. So, and I also want to show this piece. Oh, and I just saw my mom jump in and say, hey, hi, Mama. There she is. And you can see here this with the color blocking, which is a great way to use these guys here. So I wanted to pull some of our vintage finds that are not new as well. And so I've got these pieces here. This one's called the Perfect Pie. And can you see how I've used a pie like here and here? And Janice could even, I'm going to get her necklace out here. Something like these pies, or these, sometimes we call them donuts or whatever. Something like this would also look really great attached to a piece like this. You can see here on this one, on the back, how that's a regular one of our pie pieces. And this was an old mother of pearl piece that I stacked on the top. It's not something we carry now. But you can see how I've used suede lace, and I've just actually tied it onto this piece. You could recreate something like this very easily by adding, like stacking some of our vintage finds one on top of the other. Look how great that looks like that. Then you can choose your seed bead palette, string around. You can see the seed beads come here and up, and then you would just continue to string your piece here. So super easy. So something like that, if you wanted to add a little something something, you could. This one's called Ancient Tablet, and I can't believe we haven't sold out of Ancient Tablet yet. This one is a Janice favorite, and you can see, you could dangle that little guy there at the bottom, which looks really, really cool. I love it. I love how this little, just a little serpentine slab, it's really nice there. I've brought some other pieces that are not new. We'll go over again the new ones in just a second. This one's called Space Buddha. Janice named it that. And you can see how we were talking a few shows ago about how we create negative space around the piece. So not only does the piece have shape, but the piece gives the shape around it, which kind of draws your eye to it. So this is a great one for negative space. I love this. This is also brown serpentine, which I think is super delish. We have a few others. You know, I know that you guys are super familiar with our vintage finds category, but I just had to pull some of my favorites. That one's called Madame Butterfly. I love these. I use these as the tails for a lariat. They just look perfect. And I string this on the bottom and then go all the way around and then do another one. You could even mix it up here and have the butterfly on one and that Space Buddha on the other. If you're bringing, you can see in this necklace, if we were going to try and mimic something like this. And remember, again, a few Facebook Lives ago, we were talking about, I don't know, substitutions. You know, when I did that Tribal Journey mix, a lot of you were able to grab it, but some of you weren't, right? Because it was a limited edition mix. But taking the inspiration from that kind of piece and then putting your own interpretation on it is, you know, I think it's a fun project. Cindy's mentioning that the hole in the Madame Butterfly, this is fairly narrow here. So you can get, like if you were doing Ceylon through here, I could probably get at least 4 strands of maybe fine Ceylon through there. They vary a little bit, but it's narrow, but you can get those pieces in there. This one is a little not narrow, so I think it's just kind of the luck of the draw of how you guys get those. You can see here is the serpentine carved drum. So this could sit on top of that, and all of your strands could come up through there. Let's put this guy on the bottom here. There we go. And if something that's light like this really isn't your thing, you could come in, we could repeat that barrel kind of shape on there. If you look at Janice's piece from our Born Yesterday project, Janice was doing some layering with our little warrior, or our warrior piece. You guys will remember this, right? Like this. And what she did was she actually glued some pieces on there. So those would all work out really well. So I think all of these were, you know, they all go together. Like Janice says, you know, in her lookbook from last week, how we talked about color a little bit. Every green, pretty much every green and every brown goes with every other green and every brown, right? So we can't really put a foot out of step with those. But I love how the called pie, that's what these are. No, these are perfect pie, the smaller ones are. They come in so many different colors, but you can see whichever one you would use, they all kind of go, right? Because they're all kind of that natural stone, so that's good. And what Tammy's saying is, when in doubt, she wire wraps the piece. Metal always goes with everything. That's so true. That's so true. I am all about the wire wrapping for sure. So that's a little, so from going from simple like this to a little more complex. Layering your pieces, color blocking, you can see this piece here, color block, using those pagodas. That's what this is, right? And this is that same exact bead that I used 20 years ago. They're still available now. All of those strands are going up through here, and then that color blocking here. And I've done a whole mixture of beads. These are things that, you know, we carry similar things now, but these are older pieces from my stash. But you can really come in and do kind of that fun color blocking, which is great. And someone was asking about the glue. I don't know, Janice, if you agree with me, but I would probably use the Zap glue for that. You could also use the Hypo Cement, which we also carry, but I think I would use the Zap because it's, and E6000, Krista, you just said E6000, we carry all 3 of those. And I think that, you know, with the glues are fairly inexpensive, you guys. So you can grab the Hypo, you can grab the Zap, you can grab the E6000 and do some, I don't know, little tests on different things that, that you're gluing. Because glue is kind of a personal preference as well. I am really into the Zap ever since I've come back to Bead Shop. It was a glue that I didn't use previously, and now I use all the time. I love it. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into how these things are put together. Okay, so let me, it's starting to get messy on here, you guys. It's starting to get messy. So good things I think are coming. So I've got some leather here, and I wanted to talk a little bit about leather for these guys. I grabbed in, some of you are familiar with our It's a Lot of Leather product, and our It's a Lot of Leather is kind of the ends. It's not really ends, but as you know, when we sell our leather cord, we never sell it with a knot. So if a piece is less than 4 yards, we cut it and we put it in the It's a Lot of Leather group. And It's a Lot of Leather sampler that you can buy. It's 2 ounces of leather, and you get it in kind of a big jumble like this in a bag, and then you sort it out and roll it up, and it's really fun. So it's a great way if you kind of want a sampler of leathers, and it's not seconds really, because we don't sell anything with knots in it. It's a lot of leather either. And I think everything needs to be at least a yard, and I think Janice will correct me on that if I'm wrong. But it's a great way, and you have a bunch of different colors and stuff. But what Janice used for this guy, for the serpentine piece, can you see how she's used the 0.5 millimeter leather? Can you see that there? And the 0.5 is fantastic for doubling up, and you can see how she's doubled it up here. Okay, so I've got some 0.5. I actually have 0.5 in, this might be distressed brown, maybe is what I have here in this, but Janice used the distressed gray, okay? And when you're working with 0.5 leather, you guys, the 0.5 is small. And so what I do when I get it is, when I'm going to work with it, I come in and I kind of pull it through my hands, and I pull on it to make sure that there's no flaw, because whoa, it would be so sad if as you're stringing it, and it's happened to me, it'll snap, right? So I just make sure I run it through to make sure everything is all good. Oh, we should have, I thought Cara put some It's a Lot of Leather was in stock. Oh, what's that?
5.
Oh, maybe it's gone already. Well, it goes in and out of stock very fast, you guys, so put yourself on the notification list, which I bet people did. When it went in stock, they snapped it right up. So we always have it. It's something that never will go away. It's just we make it periodically when we have enough leather to do it. So it goes into stock a couple of, at least a few times a month. So always put yourself on the notification, okay? So I've checked this, okay? And so hopefully it won't snap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my cutters. Can I have the snips there, Bryn? And I'm just going to cut this up. And with these natural stones and leather, you kind of have to test everything. My concern on this strand is that, oh, but see, they're huge. I had no reason to be concerned. Can you see how big those holes are? Right? Look at, they're gigantor, actually. And these beads are pretty, I don't know, they're pretty old. So back when holes were made a little more generously on these beads, right? Looks great. So the way that Janice started this, or at least my interpretation of how Janice started this, I'll tell you. Let's look at the end. Let's see what she did. My guess is, and I think I'm right, is that Janice started on the end with that medium brown serpentine, which is this.
Saying that the project actually said 1.0.
Oh, did it? Oh, you know what? It could very well. Let me see. I'm just guessing. Terracotta wash. It says, this is the terracotta wash. It says 4 yards distressed gray, 0.5 millimeter leather. Let's make sure that it's correct. And if it's not, oh, I'm just going to text Karen right now. Here. Don't you love live? Karen, let's see. I'm going to have her change it right now. Change the 1 millimeter distress. See how it just live, how things happened? Gray 2.5 in the terracotta project. I think though, one, let me also check. Janice had it in the in our list as 0.5, but let's see if the 1 works too. Here's 1. I think this is 1 millimeter. And the difference between the 1 mil and the 0.5, this is definitely 1 millimeter. What? Hi, Cara.
No, I was just gonna say, sometimes the different lots, the 1.0 looks like 0.5.
Right, like this one in our natural right now, it's a little thinner.
Yes.
Yeah. So there is, like everything that's natural, these natural stones, this natural leather, and you can see, let me hold this up. It's a really good illustration of Kara's point. See how the the 1 millimeter natural leather is here? This is the 1 millimeter, I don't know, I think this is metallic charcoal maybe. And this is painted over, this is colored. See how that thread is a little, or that cord is a little thicker, right? Just by virtue of having it coated. So Karen says she's changing it as we speak. So
Here's
Kara's bringing the
0.5.
0.5 right here. Don't you love learning on the fly? Brandon, can you make this just a little bit bigger?
Yeah. There's 1.0.
And there's the 1.0. Can you see that,
But
you guys?
here's another spool of 1.0.
A 1.0, right.
But it looks like the 0.5.
Right, it's a little thinner. So you will get a little bit of variation in size, and that's just how the leather rolls. Yeah. But thanks, Kara. A Teachable Moment by Kara Scopazzi. Thanks, Kara. So this 1 millimeter, I'm going to see if it goes through doubled. Because these holes, yeah, look at that. It goes through fine as well. So if you've already bought the 1 millimeter, it should be fine. And so I want to show you, or if you have it at home, you can use it that way too. I think what Janice started with is this medium, the medium serpentine. Now this bead has a gigantic hole. You can see how big it is. But it's kind of hard for you to see down the bead hole. Some of these beads, I'll pull this one too, like this guy that's right here. See how you can see the paper behind the hole? See that? You can see that the hole goes straight through. This bead, can you see how the hole isn't quite straight? Especially these older beads, a lot of these were hand drilled, not drilled by machine. So a lot of times it was drilled through one way like this, and then drilled through the other way like this, and the twain did not meet. They met kind of like this. So you have to kind of make a little jump there. Sometimes it's easy to get through. So I'm going to look at this wonky hole and see if it goes. And it goes through just fine. It's fine. But sometimes you have to make that little jog and it's not quite right. But this is fine. This leather goes right through, goes through perfectly. And I'm going to go through, and I know what you're asking me. You're saying, Kate, how much leather are you using? I am telling you I have no idea. So let me measure. Is the tape measure? It's over there, Bran, if you don't mind grabbing it. It's over, right over there. I'll tell you how long this is. Thank y'all. This length is, I don't know, 20 inches, door to door, okay? And what Janice did on the end is she made it adjustable by doing a button loop here and a button loop here, okay? So you can make this any length you want, but if I'm aiming for 40, this does have knots, or 20, 40, I don't know, maybe 50 inches of cord, and then double it over. You know, cord is not expensive, so you don't want to run out at the end. So I'll measure this and tell you how much this is. But you know, go with your gut, right? So let me see, I've gone through the bead hole like this. And Brandon, when you make this just a slight bit larger so I'm not going out of frame. I'll hold that there and I will say, yeah, this is probably about 50 inches that I'm working with. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 55 inches. And then folding it in half. You know what? I don't know why I can't decide how much I want to use. Maybe I'll go about 60, let's just say. So the knot I want to show you guys before I get to this, I want to show you a couple of different knots. And I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me get my little pencil pointer here. So we've run through this bead and there's a knot tied right here. Can you see that? And then every two, I think Janice did this, every two, she clustered in groups of two, okay? So cluster, 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 cluster. You could cluster groups of three. You could cluster two and put something in the middle. Little shadow, I'm looking at you. You could use like one of these serpentine donuts, whatever. You do you. You figure out what works nicely for you guys. So let me go back here to the piece so I can see it. Yeah, and Janice said she used, Janice said she thinks she used the 1.0 leather on the terracotta wash and the 0.5 on the third season. Well, Janice, it says in the list 0.5, I don't know. Either works. You could use the 0.5 or the 1, and then we'll make a decision on, maybe we should use an or on the project. Let me get a bigger piece of cording here. This is a 2mm cord, I think. And so I want you guys to be able to see the knot that I'm going to do. So let's see if this fits through the 2. See, the 2mm even fits through here. It's fine. So the knot, you guys, that Janice has tied, I'm going to make this intentionally short because I don't know if this 2mm will go through the holes in the carnelian, but we'll just see. So the knot that we tie, there's a couple of knots that I want to show you. And first, let's look at, would you hand me, Brand, the cutter, the orange handle? If you have trouble getting your cord through, let's come in, we'll do something that we call here, we'll do an angle cut, right? And so that angle cut, I do that with my wire cutters. The angle, however deep you make the angle, makes, you know, it just makes it a little bit easier to get your cord through. If the hole was kind of small and kind of tight, I would come in and I'd make a deeper angle here. Here I don't even need to angle cut it. This hole is so big, okay? So once you angle cut, you'll come in and then the first knot that you'll tie underneath here, it's just simply an overhand knot. Now you could also silk wrap this, right? And in fact, I've got some thread here. We could knot it or we could silk wrap. Let me silk wrap this one and then we'll knot the one below it, okay? Our Irish wax linen, you guys are familiar with that. I love the Irish wax linen. Again, you're asking me how much I'm cutting. I don't know, a foot-ish, right? And I just grabbed it out of our scrap pile, this blue. But if you want to add a little bit of color to these pieces, a little bit more color to these pieces, this would be a good, the wax linen is a good thing to use. You could also use Ceylon, right? The regular Ceylon, the fine Ceylon, doesn't matter. And we have a skill builder on the web on how to do the silk wrap. If you haven't silk wrapped before, it's a great thing to practice, but you can see I'm just making my little loop. I'm laying my thread along the leather. It's about folded over at from 1/3 to 2/3 here. And then I'll just come in and I'll start to wrap. I'll wrap kind of at a nice right angle and I'll just bring it up. I'm going to make this silk wrap kind of long, but see how I'm laying one little wrap below the other. I like wrapping the leather with the Irish wax linen because it's waxed and it kind of stays where you put it. I may have made this silk wrap a little long, but that's okay. It's kind of nice to really see it. And the wax, like I said, really holds everything in place. So see, I can actually not, I can let go and it kind of stays, right? Tammy is saying that she also likes to wrap with the 0.5mm leather as well. And I do that. You guys know that Kate's favorite that I wear all the time, that's been silk wrapped with the 0.5. When you're silk wrapping with leather, you really do want to make sure that you go through and kind of pull on that leather to make sure that it doesn't have any flaws in it, because it will break when you're silk wrapping, okay? And so now to just finish it up, I have this end, I go through that loop and tighten it up. And see how I'm pulling over here. This was, you guys, the very first knot I learned back when I joined Bead Shop in 1992 was this silk wrap. Can you see how I'm pulling with this hand? I can feel the knot sliding underneath my thumb, and now it's about in the middle of this wrap. Okay, and so now I can just cut everything away. I could burn it with my thread burner, but I'm just going to really carefully clip it away using my Xeron cutters. You could also use whatever you wanted to do. So this, you can see, is a nice, kind of a nice long color band there, but you can see how that and that are kind of the same. Okay, whether you silk wrap, you could macrame it, you could crimp it with our Evolve crimp, or our, what's the other crimp brand one that I'm, Evolve and Transitions.
Yes.
You could use either of those, right? But the silk wrap I think is gorgeous, and I love kind of this bright blue, adds kind of an interesting pop, kind of as a nice foil to the orange beads in here. Then what Janice did, so now, as Janice likes to say, oh my gosh, Kate's going, I'm going rogue. But you can see what JP did here, and I'll just do this real quick with this one. I'll just knot this one here. What she did was she came together and we just did an overhand knot with this. So I would do an overhand, I'd keep my strands together, pull them underneath, keep everything straight and not tangled. There we go. Straight and not crisscrossed. Sorry, I'll get my hand back in the shot here. So it gives me a nice, tight knot that I just walk up into place. And wherever it ends, you guys, let it end. You know, if it doesn't, if it's not super close up to the bead, that's okay. You know, if there's a little bit of room, as we like to say, it needs a little bit of air, okay? And give it a little bit of a tug. So that's ready to go, okay? Like this and like this. And the other piece that Janice did, I think it's similar, if I can find it. Here it is. She did the same thing on this one, okay? So it's a good closure. Now you don't have to use this bead. This is the medium brown, serpentine medium round. You could use a button. We could do whatever it is you wanted. The peekaboo button looked great on this, you know, whatever you liked. But then the world's your oyster, right? We're gonna, let me show you what I do with this. Let me just take a few of these carnelian pieces off of here. What I would do with this 2mm, where did it go? Here it is. You can see on this one how Janice strung the 2 strands through these carnelian nuggets, okay? On here, she split the strands and wove in and out. One went in, one went around, okay? So if you're using heavier leather like this, if I were going to try and replicate this with a heavier leather, I could simply just string these carnelian on one. Maybe I could float them even. I could string a carnelian on one strand and maybe a carnelian on another, or maybe 2. These are kind of skinny, right? So I could bring them here together. They would create a little pod like this, or if you wanted them to kind of lay nice and tidily, I could string them on one strand. And this 2mm goes through these carnelian just fine. And you could do it like this. And so the knot that she tied was, again, that very same knot that we did just up there. It's a simple overhand. Your strands are together, wrap them around, slide them through, and tighten it up. All right, you guys have been tying this knot your whole life, right? Easy. Like at the end of a the end of a sewing thread, right? When you're sewing on a button, you place a knot at the end of your thread, same way, okay? So here's this, okay? And you could just, I don't know, continue with, we've got some other new pieces. This is that daisy, what's that called? Daisy serpentine. And it looks kind of like a cool oblong daisy. a serpentine daisy. What Janice did with this one is, and I'll do in a little bit of a heavier leather so you can see it, is she sent it through. Let's see if it fits on the two. It does. Look at that. And the leather is outside it on one. Again, let's just send it through, tighten it up, and let it have some air if you want. It doesn't have to be tight, right? What Janice also did on this one, you could see with that little serpentine donut, you could do this with the I Ching coin, anything that's flat. You could do this with the large barrel. I don't know, this one, you guys have checked out the large barrel. This is a Janice favorite. This is true, beautiful, undyed jade in its natural state. I just love these so much. We also have this one called Square Peg. This one would do the same thing. This is an older one here. And so what we did was we just came with the thread going through one way. Again, let's see if this 2mm works. It does indeed. So see how it lays flat. Now you could continue, and you've seen me do this. We did this, I think, in the homecoming project that we did before. There's something floating in my water. It may be a bead or something else. I'm not sure. But I didn't drink it, so don't worry. I'm okay. Let me come in and see, we can come in this way and continue to weave those beads in. Can you see how the threads are going like this? And then I tighten it up. I could silk wrap in between that, or you can just continue to do this link of beads this way. They really are kind of an endless variety of things that you can do with these. Okay, and then once you're done, just kind of let those float in there. Come on, there we go, like this. And then I'll tie a knot here on this end. Okay, like that. And you just continue on, okay? So again, if all of these beads fit on a 2mm leather, they're gonna fit just fine on all of the other leathers behind it. Now, I want to show you guys a couple of things when you're knotting leather with these guys. I'm going to jump in with the centerpiece over here. This is it's called puzzling, we call this one. I'm going to just grab a quick piece of leather here, and I want to show you some of the different ways of how you would hang these guys here, right, or suspend these from some cord. This is 1.5mm I'm using, I guess. And so something like this, if you just want to simply put it on cord, right, I would come through that center hole, and you could just do that little kind of, I think they call this a lark's head knot, right? It just comes up and goes through like that, right? And then you could continue to work this way. Now, if this piece is coming through here, remember how we talked a little bit earlier about layering? So we could, let me just layer a piece on top of it, like this. Come on, come here. There we go. And just kind of send it through. Now, if you had beads that were large enough, hole-wise, you could use like maybe 6/0 would work. You could string 6/0 on these, but look at how just delightful and simple that is, just like that, okay? Now, if I were going to add some beads along this strand, and you can see on the other side, this could be the front. I kind of like how this splits and opens, or you could do it this way. That could be the front as well. Just depends on which side you like. That came out to this side, so that's what I'm going to use. So if I wanted to add some beads to embellish, I would again tie that overhand knot like Janice tied, but instead of tying a single knot, I would tie it double. So here I've made my loop, and I'm going to go through once, but I'm going to go through one more time, so it's doubled. Now watch what happens here, you guys. As I tighten this knot, and you've seen me do this before, I've done it before with leather, but see how when I tighten this knot, see how the little knot is kind of forming into a figure 8? I continue to tighten it, continue to tighten it, continue, and I bring those little loops of the figure 8 together so that your knot has kind of a little bar on one side and a little cross on the other. And can you see how nice and straight the cord passes through the knot? If I just make a single pass like this and I go through and I tighten it, see how the knot kind of has a hitch in it. It doesn't go through straight. So this double overhand that I do here just makes that knot flow really nicely. Then you could add something. I think these medium brown serpentines are getting a lot of play. Do a walnut, Ginger. You know what? I will have to look at my I'll have to look at my directions. The last time we did walnuts, I had to call it up on my phone to remind myself how to do it. But the walnuts would look great. And I'll show it again. Let me go a little bit slower. Yes, Cindy, I can. Let me show you here. So I've put this medium serpentine on, right? I'm going to slide it on. And this time it makes a little bit more of a difference because we need to get the knot somewhere in the vicinity of this bead hole. Okay, so I'm going to come in. I'm going to loop it around. Now I'm going to go through with this end. I'm going to go through one time, and now 2 times. Okay, so the knot, you can see it's looped through twice. Now, remember that figure 8. I'm going to pull on it until it kind of naturally goes into that figure 8 shape. But now I've got to get it from up here to down here, and I seem to have misplaced my awl, so it doesn't matter. I'm just going to do it with my fingers. I'm going to walk that knot down. See how it's still loose? Okay. And I'm just going to kind of push that figure 8 down and pull the thread until my knot ends up where I want it to go. Okay? So it's nice. It's a nice kind of beefy knot. And you could simply, if you wanted to knot these kind of a la pearl knotting, right? I could just, I'll do this at Kate speed. I could just add another bead right next to it. Okay. The good thing about this is this broadcast is always on replay, so you can reverse it. Watch me do this over and over. That knot didn't come out quite. There we go. That's where I wanted it. Okay, so I could continue with that. So the vintage finds, they're kind of like the garanimals of the bead world, right? You just kind of mix and match them, right? So anyone remember Garanimals, Am I the Only One?
No.
Who remembers it? Brandon, you'll remember, right?
Yeah.
You remember. This one is called Being Open, very similar to this, but let me show you how a different way to connect it. I'm going to get this distressed gray. I'm just going to cut a little piece from the It's a Lot of Leather pile I have here. And I would come in, and you could just send it through. Let me see, I've got a knot here. This is, I think, 1.5 millimeter. So I want to test. If it goes through. This is called our wood carving. It's actually serpentine. Let me see if I can get them through double. It doesn't want to go through double. Let's see, but I bet this barrel one does. Someone asked, oh, what's that clam like? Yeah, this is an old bell. Yep. I would love to find these guys again. This was a piece that I pulled just to kind of show you guys how to layer. But these are pieces we had a million years ago. But you can see I did silk wrap way back in the day. This looks like with 1 millimeter leather here. So, and some little wire embellishing. So we're always looking, especially for the mixes, you guys, when we do our bead mixes. Janice and I are trying to hone in on really interesting vintage things for you guys. So, but here's that serpentine carved drum. The hole on this is gigantic, and so it'll take that two strands of that 1.5 millimeter just fine. So see how you don't even have to have a knot, right? Just let it float like this. Look, it's gorgeous, just like that. Super pretty. Someone was saying it's very elegant. It is a very elegant presentation on this. Or you could just come in, tie that overhand knot, tie it down, and pull it together. Okay, so that's all you would have to do there. All right. So I want to get back to Janice's piece right here, this guy. And she used the natural leather for this. I'm going to use, what do I have here that's a long piece of leather? This is pretty long. So let's come in. I really also like using, let's see if it'll take this hole. I also like using these daisies, the carved daisy serpentine, as an end, as a button. You see that, how that kind of sits there nicely? That would look great. Let's get that teal. Do I have another color? Maybe the teal is what I want. I like the contrast of the teal. Let's just do it. Let me clip this away. And let's make this into a button. So again, 1/3 to 2/3. Some would say, backtracking to the walnut, I'm glad you don't remember how to do everything. I do. I have to look things up. All I have to do, you guys, is stay one step ahead of you guys, right? That's all I have to do. But I have some new knots coming. I'm going to do a broadcast on some braid, and it's coming up on a Facebook Live. I'm going to do some braiding with leather because I know you guys loved that round braid one we did with the deer skin. So that's coming up because it's really fun. It's really fun to braid with the leather too. And it's kind of a good continuation of this. So I'm going to just come in with my silk wrap very carefully and slide it underneath. Again, you can go to the, if you go to our projects page and you go to Skill Builders and you click on Skill Builders, there's a whole tutorial on how to make the silk wrap. And don't be afraid of color. You know, what am I saying? Miss, I like to wear gray all the time or black all the time. But in your jewelry, I think a little pop of color is great. And so this teal kind of makes things pop really nicely. And so then I'm just going to randomly choose some things that I like with this. I'm going to start by tapering and using this little serpentine donut like this, right? Because it's so charming and so pretty, or as Martha Stewart says, pretty. Martha likes to accent her T's. Terribly pretty. There we go. And let's just tie another knot just like that. And again, we'll double it over and through and tight. And see how I'm trying to keep, though I'm not being very successful, you want to try and keep your cords side by side so as you're tightening the knot stays nice and smooth. Okay, so there's that one. Let's go, you guys were looking at this elongated bicone. This is also a new one. I mean, come on, kids. This one is so pretty. Let me see if I can get the 2 strands through. I sure can. Look at how nice that hole is sized, right? Look at that, perfect. Let's tie a knot. Couldn't do it wrong. This leather, Yvette, is my favorite leather of all time. It is distressed gray, 1.5 mil. Let's put a, I don't know, this is our new, these are, what are these? They're the serpentine rectangle. And let me show you the variation in color in these. Look at all the different colors they come in. So when you purchase your vintage finds, you guys, let me take a moment to say, in the photo, when we do a photo, when Karen does a photo, she tries to get a good color representation of what we have in stock, okay? And you can see in this serpentine, they range in color from this light green to this medium green to this golden yellow. And you can always request, you can always say, Nancy L, I'm looking at you, which we love. You could always say, Nancy was joking the other day when she sent in her requests. She was saying, I wrote a novel, but we don't mind when you write a novel.
I did my best.
Yes, that's right. Brandon, did you fill that order?
Yes.
Brandon filled it. She tried to really match them well. But you can say, you know, I want them a little lighter, I want them a little darker, and we try our best to kind of send you a good overall palette of the colors, right? So, you know, request, you know, what you like, but again, when things are gone, sometimes they're gone. So when you order kind of a bunch of vintage finds, we do our best to kind of make a pretty palette, a pretty representation. So, and if you don't love it, just send it back. We can switch it out or we'll refund it or whatever. It's no big deal. You know, as long as it's within our returns policy, it's not a problem. Okay. So I'm going to choose this one because that's what was speaking to me. So let's knot this one on. Okay. And so slide it through. And when we say we hand pick these little Brandon's little hands, we're hand picking them, okay? So look at how pretty, that negative space, that shape in between, how we're kind of creating a nice little meander here, a nice little walk of beads. So I'm gonna come on around, come through, and slide it down, okay? And tighten it up, alrighty. Right, or Kim says, or buy another one. It's true. I like that story even better. These are our serpentine soft-sided square. Doesn't that sound just like a precious angel of a bead here? This one's really pretty. And the serpentine, I don't know if you guys knew this, but serpentine is one of California's state stones. Much of the rock in California is serpentine. Chris and I went on a little hike the other day and we were picking up rocks at the seashore because I still, like when I was little, couldn't leave a riverbed or a seashore without a pocket full of rocks. And so we picked up actually a bunch of serpentine when we were out. It was kind of fun. I think I've turned Chris on to the love of rocks. So see how that leather can just ride along on the back. And you can see I'm making this in scale a little bit larger than Janice's piece, right? So you do what works for you. We haven't used this one. This is the brown serpentine large round, which is delish and has a giant hole. So I'm just gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do an intentional repeat. I'm going to put 2 on, okay? And we'll come in and we'll tie this knot. And let me do a quick measure to see where we are. Let me see. Close. We're almost halfway there. Let's put in another, let me go for large beads, so I'll be done faster. What do you think about that? I'll come through. Let's do another one of these rectangles. I don't know. Make it up, you guys, as you go along. Then let's give this a measure. Oh, thanks, Brandon.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had this little bit of blue there. Okay, so now it's all coming to me. Okay, I got this. I know what I'm doing. If we wanted to add, let me measure this out. Yeah. If we wanted to add a centerpiece to this, sorry, let me get that in frame. Maybe that's not the one. Maybe I'll try this. Can I get 4 strands of this through? I don't know.
About to find out.
We're about to find out, kids. Yes, look at that. Perfect. This, let me just stop and tell you, this is a rarity in precious, semi-precious bead land. It's because these guys are old that these have such a large hole. Now, a lot of beads that you see when they're drilled, a lot of these today are drilled by machine, right? And these guys here, they were probably drilled with a machine, but that was guided by hand. So the holes in these are huge, and they vary. Some are bigger, some are smaller. But they have a nice little finish, a nice little kind of edging dressing, which is really nice. When semi-precious beads are made, and when they're made for sale, a lot of them on the big, big bulk buying level, are sold by weight. So when the bead makers are making these beads, they make the holes as small as they can that they can get away with, so that the bead is heavier, right? So it's worth more, or it's costs more, I guess. But something like this, it's hard to find these guys here, and you can see, look at that, how all 4 of those strands go through. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you find a bead like this, and if you do stringing like this, stock up on these, because they'll come in super handy. So I guess I'm just going to make this up. Let's put it through this warrior piece. We've got several. I want to show you, where did those go? They're right here. These also really vary, right, in color. Can you see? These are all serpentine, but they're all very, very different. I don't know, I kind of like this one that I pulled originally. I like all of kind of that multicolors with the stones. So I'll just keep that. And I'll go through and I'll come back up. And so see here, there we go. I may not have cut enough leather, but that's all right. We'll just make it happen. This is just a demo anyway. So can you see here, there's a little bit of space going on. And so maybe, no, you can't see. There we go. So maybe I want to add, get some of that color from the end. So let's cut another piece of this. And let's, I don't know, this might not be the best idea, but let me see how it looks. Let's do just a petit peu of silk wrapping. Get this around, just so it looks intentional, so that little piece of teal silk wrap up at the back doesn't look like it's not supposed to be there. My fingers don't want to do this. It's a little bit more difficult when you've got to deal with a centerpiece and a bead and all that stuff, right? But again, when you're wrapping with the wax linen, it just stays where you put it, right? It just stays there. So I can let go. I don't have to be so worried. You know, like sometimes I silk wrap with Chinese knotting cord. Chinese knotting cord would be amazing to do all of this with. But when I wrap with the CKC, it's buoyant, right? It doesn't want to stay. But here it's very easy. So I can just come in and pull. And I could have added embellishment to the front of this or whatever, but I wanted to keep it kind of simple. I'll cut this time with my thread snips. Cut it under a little bit of tension there and a little bit of tension there. So this will kind of float, and we'll do another. This is all kind of marking up my paper, but it's all right. We'll kind of come in, we'll tie another thing, and then I think I have enough thread. Let's run for the finish line here. Okay. And yeah, I think this was the teal Irish wax linen. And Janice is saying for the terracotta wash, she used close to 4 yards of leather. The knots do take up, and the more knots you put in, the more cord it takes up, right? So be very generous with your leather. I'm gonna be I might even be short, which means I'm gonna have to add leather, but if I do, we do. It's okay, okay. I'm gonna do 2 of these and 2 of these and tie that knot. See, again, you can see that leather's taking, every knot that I tie takes up another bit of leather. Okay, and then one of these rounded squares that's right here. You can see again, it looks, you can try and match them. I don't know, maybe that one's a little bit better, but doesn't matter. Let's see, that goes there. I can see Janice, she's all, Kate, you're gonna run out of thread. I am. So, where do I want to connect it? Let's see. I'm just going to keep going until I really run out. I know, you guys are wondering what I'm going to do. I'm wondering what I'm going to do too. This one, you can see, doesn't want to go through, so I'm going to try it this way. Sometimes if you reverse it, see, it wants to go through the other way, so that's okay. This one here. Does 2 wanted to go through that, but 2 does not want to go through this one. But that's okay. We'll just slide 1 through. Oh, I'm getting precariously close. Then I finished with this. So now I need to do a closing loop, and it's fortuitous that we've ended right here, because see what I can do here is we're going to use that silk wrap to attach some new thread. So if you remember Janice's Trails End project that she did, right, and one that our Allie Morey likes to recreate quite often, the Trails End used a nice closure, a nice silk wrapped closure. I'm going to do a little modification of that. Let's look at Janice's end that she did here. Okay, so see how what JP did was she just made this adjustable by, if I had just like 4 inches more of thread on each side or of cord, I would have enough. But what she did was, see how she knotted it here and then left an opening and knotted it there. We could make it even more adjustable like she did with the terracotta one. See how she made 2 openings here? So it depends. You can make this as adjustable as you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in And I'm going to cut that 4 inches of thread. Of cord is what I should say. Right, Janice, I'll use a ring. I could. There's so many things that we could do. But what I'm going to do here is I am just going to, because I want my silk wrap to match. So maybe I'll make this intentional. Wait for it. Wait for it. Let me see. That. This might be the wrong bead for it, but that's okay. What I really want are some little shadows, but I'm going to use these. Okay. So I'm going to bring, see how I've got all 4 cords here, and I've just kind of made something that's kind of kicky, like that. I'm going to cut this wax linen. And see how when I pull on the wax linen, it also stiffens it? It makes it really a good choice also for stringing, too. I like it a lot. You don't have to string with the needle. I'm going to gather all 4 of these cords underneath, and I'm going to wrap. I'm going to wrap all 4 of these dudes together. One, and I don't know, about that much, right? So one good first round. There we go. One good first round. Come on. And then just wrap one next to the other. And notice how on these ends I kind of staggered them to give them a little style. Make it look purposeful. What does my hero Julia Child say? Who's to know when you drop the chicken in the kitchen, right? Who's to know? Well, I just dropped the chicken. And all of you know, but it's okay. I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna tighten, come in and tighten. There we go. Now I pop that connection underneath the wrap. Now, if I wanted, I could also leave, I don't know, a little end.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I keep pulling it towards myself. I could leave a little end of thread there if I wanted, but I don't know if I do. Maybe it doesn't look intentional, so I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to cut this one. So now I have all of this thread, or cord, sorry, I keep calling it thread. All of this cord to use. I could bring these back down and continue to, I could tie little ends, but I think I'm going to ditch them. So that one goes. And you could have put a little bit of glue under this, I guess. I could have put a little hypo cement underneath before I silk wrapped it. But this silk wrap is not going anywhere. That's not going to pull out. It's nice and tight. But again, if you wanted, you could use just a little bit of that GS hypo cement. Now I can come in and I'll make my loop for this. I'll come in and I'll make sure that it's the right size. I don't want to make it too big. But there we go. That looks about right. And I think what I want to do is, I could knot it, but let's again be intentional with the color and wrap it. I think that's right. Then I've got one more trick up my sleeve that I want to share with you. And then we'll bring this broadcast to a close. But I hope you have picked up some good tips with this and have really seen what these vintage finds can do. And I'll review Janice's pieces too before we jump off so everyone knows what's going on there. Tighten that up. Pull it tight. The Irish wax linen you can get nice and tight. And the wax really holds things in place. Again, a dot of glue, or not. Let's make it intentional by tying that knot there, tying that knot there. stagger them a little so they don't bump into each other. There we go. Cut, I'm going to angle cut it so it looks pretty. And let's see. Here's that closure. So you can see that back, it looks pretty, it looks nice. It looks kind of like I planned it that way instead of screwed up and didn't cut enough leather that I needed. So here's the entire thing. So there it is with the kind of, maybe I'll do it at the angle. There we go, Bran. You can see, look at the detritus all around. It's like the beads blew up here. But I think it looks kind of nice, and you can see I intentionally, so I didn't have to reinvent the wheel, I just mirrored this side from this side. And it gives it, even though these are all different, there's some intentional repeats here and here, some intentional repeating here. I mirror that here, so I've got a nice triangle here. This kind of elongates it and starts to taper it as it goes around the back of the neck. So, you know, just play around with it. And if it didn't work, you guys saw I didn't invest that much time in this, right? It's okay. You could just very, very easily cut it up. Oh, I'm sorry, I've missed everybody's. I wasn't looking at these, the comments on Facebook. I'm sorry, I
haven't seen anything
I missed
that really
it.
needed any.
Okay.
You know,
Okay,
Peta's
good.
always on top of
Good,
it.
good, good, good. Okay, good, great. Wonderful, great. I did want to show you guys Janice's piece, and then I want to share with you one last thing that I feel never gets any love, and it's something I pulled a little bit earlier. But in Janice's, this one is called Terracotta Wash, and she used the carnelian nuggets for it. Okay.
Perfect.
And then this one is called Third Season, and Janice did this one with her different choices, the rectangle, the daisy, all of our new ones that we got in, the carved drum, the soft-sided square, the
lovely.
daisy. It's really nice, it is. And you could just make this as long as you want, right? This guy here was a piece that I didn't pull to the fore, and it doesn't really have much in the world of vintage finds in it. But you can see this idea with chain, how you could do something like this vintage find side like that, have it terminate in a centerpiece, and then do the other side with chain. This is a good way of using those. And you can see I used this was a toggle from my stash, but how all of that comes together in the front like that. So this is another great way of kind of using, you could do this, you could string the carnelian strands like that and have chain to the other side. Okay. The one last thing that I wanted to share with you guys that I feel never gets a lot of love and really is perfect for vintage finds. And I don't even know if you guys find it on the web, because I'll be honest, I sometimes forget even that we carry it. But it does not get any more old school than this elastic that we carry. It's the 1mm elastic cord. And I know a lot of you like to string on, what's it called, Bran? The Stretch Magic. Thanks, Cara. The Stretch Magic. And while Stretch Magic works really nicely and works for a lot of beads that have a lot of different hole sizes, this is elastic that's going to last the ages. And Stretch Magic is good. It lasts, but it doesn't last like this cord. Let me show you. This is elastic cord. It comes in a 5-yard card, and it's 1mm. Okay, and let me see if I can open this up here. And this is a nice dark brown color. It's super stretchy, See, Cindy Brooks, I didn't know you had that elastic cord. I know, right? And it's covered. It's elastic, but it's covered with, fabric. I don't know, whatever. It's like a hair tie, right? Kind of. But it is what we used to string back in the day before the Stretch Magic was available. And what I do with this, if I'm stringing it and I need it to be rigid, I'll do my zap glue trick where I make a self needle with it, right? I put a little bit of zap glue on a baggie and I'll run this through and then it dries so it's a nice stiff needle. But we don't always need to do it that way. So I'm going to cut it. This is going to be the world's fastest sample. All right. This is so supreme. There it is. And I just love it. And this would go probably doubled through, but it just strings up well. And I know a lot of you are not fans of the Stretch Magic. I'll be honest, I am not the biggest Stretch Magic fan, though I use it because sometimes I like a stretchy bracelet. But this is so supple and will last. So we're just gonna string this up. I'm using the carved, what are these, the carved barrels maybe? Oh, you read my mind, Brandon. I want one of those. Give me that. Give me that Space Buddha. It does come in other colors,
Serpentine.
Beth, serpentine carved barrel. It does come in other colors. I grabbed the brown. I don't know what other colors it comes in, honestly. But it does come in a variety. Am I out of serpentine carved barrels?
I think you might have gotten
Okay.
them all.
Well, oh no, here's a few more. I'm going to cut it. Let's make it intentional at least. This one, and this one, and this one. There we go. And I've got a donut here, and a donut here on this end. Let me see, how am I doing on length? Super close. So, let me do that. Oh, Cara's so good. Look what Cara just tenderly handed me. This nice little note, this Post-it. It comes in black, dark brown, gray, light blue, melon, mocha, and white. Thanks, Cara Scopazzi.
Elastic.
Perfect. I didn't grab enough of those, so I'm going to put that one on the end, that one on this end. They might be a little, you know what, I think they're a little big. I'll put these on the ends. I think it's a little long for, if I'm going to do a bracelet.
Okay.
It might be a little long. Let's see how this looks. What's the length of the elastic? The elastic is almost 5 yards. Hello. You're going to hear the, great. You can hear the, someone's calling. I don't know. We can put it on silent. There, and someone hung up. Perfect. Sorry we didn't get to you. So if this was going to be an elastic, this might, yeah, that fits perfectly. So we could knot this a couple of different ways. If I was just going to knot this up like this, what I would probably do is I would slip maybe a bead that had a large hole. You can see I'm totally doing this off the cuff. I did not think about this closure, but you could do something pretty easy. We could even use this almost like a mala bead or a guru bead. I could slip them through this way, like this, and we could just have a knot that's exposed like this, and so it would sit kind of like that, and I could cut the little tails off that way. Or I could just simply string this back. I want a bead that has a large hole. So let me see if I can double this. take this out. I want to go back to that barrel. If your elastic starts getting a little shaggy, that's okay. You can kind of angle cut it a little bit, but there we go. So see, that's what I like the look of right there. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to just do I don't like that knot either. Let me put that one on there. That's what I want to get to, is the big donut that has the big hole. There we go. Just like that. Now, these are kind of heavy-ish. They're not super heavy. If your beads will take it, I sometimes string on this double. This is very durable though, so we don't have to do it double. I'm going to do that overhand knot, tighten it up. I don't want to tie any stretch into this, right? When I knot it, I just want it to be closed, and I don't want it to be pulled tight when I knot it, so that I have plenty of room for this. Then I will put a dot of hypo cement on here, and I will let it sit 24 hours, and then I'll clip it away. You're just going to see me clip it away now. And then that knot will hide right in this bead with the big hole, just like that. That's it. Okay, so Vintage Finds and this fabric color elastic works really, really beautifully. And then you could always hang something like this, like the Space Buddha, with a jump ring or a wire wrap or something like that. So, and Cindy's also saying a Pony Express bead. Yes, perfect for that. Would hide that knot really, really beautifully. And then this just slides on just like so. So it's super easy. So I really wanted to take a moment and show you guys that before we parted ways. Well, Brandywin,
Shall we show off the mess?
I think we've come to the end of our extravaganza. What do you think?
Spin back.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. There we go. All right, you guys. There, I can see you right down there. I can see you. I can see you. There we go. Fantastic.
Oops. It's like a roller coaster.
There we go. Hang on, everybody. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Trying to not cut off the top of your head.
All right. There we go. All right. Well, you guys, we got through. Look at this table. It's crazy. It's crazy.
They can't
crazy.
really see it too much.
All right. Well, it's all right. Did I screw up my bangs too much? There we go. Well, I hope you enjoyed this Facebook Live, Bead Shop Live, and we went over so much today. Francesca's like, oh my gosh, is that the new studio? Yes, it is. I'm in the middle of the studio space. And so before we wrap it up, I will say we've got, you can see kind of behind my shoulder right here. Can you see that? We've got a screen there. It's super exciting. We're going to be able to stream and have what I'm doing on a big screen. It's going to be terrific. So very, very soon you're going to see the class schedule come out. So those of you who are near Redwood City, California, or those of you who want to travel out to us, will be able to take classes live in person. We're really, really excited about it. So all of the Vintage Finds, bookmark the Vintage Finds category. It's very exciting that we got to add some new things here. And I hope that you got some really great inspiration over what we did today. So if you're watching this live, today is May 15th. May is halfway over as we speak. So today, until, if you opened up your newsletter, if you haven't opened up your newsletter, go open it. Or if you have not subscribed to our newsletter, go to beadshop.com and subscribe. We do all kinds of fun things via our newsletter. Drea does a great job writing those. And so if you place an order and toss Vintage Finds in your in your cart, and in the coupon code you put vintage 25. The vintage finds are all 25% off. So it's time to jump in and grab those vintage finds and add them to your stash. So if you're watching this on a rebroadcast, I'm sorry that the coupon isn't valid, but as I say, go to our website, jump on our newsletter and subscribe, and you'll get all kinds of fun stuff. Well, kids, it was great having you. It was great having my father-in-law and our dear friend Carol here as well. It was great to have them today. I hope did you have fun?
Oh, yes.
They're like, oh, wake me up when it's no. It's great. It was great to have you guys. It was so fun. And Brandon, thanks as always to your great camel work, and Drea and Janice and everybody for moderating. It was great. On Friday, we are going to do a Free Tip Friday replay for you. We have a really fun project that's going to launch, and we're going to direct you to the Free Tip Friday to watch, because I am taking Free Tip Friday off. Look, someone's calling again, so I better go get the phone. But I will see you next week on Bead Shop Live on Wednesday. Have a fun and creative week, and I'll talk to you guys soon.